Hi guys and welcome to TechteamGB. This video is a quick one about Intel's new Core X series processors. These are the i9 to i5, a bit about the X299 motherboards and chipset and stuff like that, and a bit of detail about the chips themselves. So this is a bit of an interesting one, and hopefully this will inform you and possibly raise some questions that need to be answered by Intel. Obviously this is the announcement rather than the launch. The launch I think is in a week or two anyway, so it'll be interesting to see how this changes and all that sort of stuff, and I'd really love to hear your thoughts on these chips in the comments down below as we go through them. So let's take a look. So first things first, they're bringing the Core i9 name scheme into reality. These are the HEDT platform, the sort of high-end desktop platform, where you're basically looking at your sort of X99 replacements, so your 6900Ks, your 6950Xs. That's what's being replaced. What's replacing it is actually pretty interesting. So you have a Core i9, which is kind of the super high end. So right now the only one that is currently being immediately launched is the 7900X. That one is a 10 core 20 thread 3.3 gigahertz base with just Intel Turbo Boost. They haven't listed the boost speed yet. I think it goes up to 4.5, although that is a up to, so who knows what it'll actually turbo to. That one has 44 PCIe lanes, 4 channels of DDR4 RAM up to 2666, and has 13.75 megabytes of L3 cache. This is a $1,000 processor, uses the LGA 2066 socket, which is new for X299, and has a 140 watt TDP. That's pretty crazy, pretty high, especially when comparing to Ryzen, even on the obviously 1800X, which is currently 8 cores. I'd also be interested to hear what Threadripper has to offer. The next one in the lineup, which is actually an i7 as opposed to an i9, is a 7820X, sorry. All of the HEDT platform CPUs are going to be X labeled if they're unlocked rather than K. Not really sure why, but I suppose this is part of the Core X lineup. That one is the 8-core 16-thread at 3.6 gigahertz. That one has a Turbo Boost enabled up to 4.5 gigahertz, although again that will be single core, and again I don't know how close to 4.5 gigahertz it will get. That one only has 28 PCIe lanes though, so if you're someone who uses multiple graphics cards, especially if you're using a 6900K as a workstation type system with multiple GPUs for rendering and stuff like that, this is not the CPU for you anymore. The PCI lanes have been nerfed here from I think 40 down to 28. It's still a 140 watt CPU. This one is priced at $599, so in terms of pounds, that's probably going to be basically the same. That one still has 11 megabytes of cache. So again, if you're comparing that to the 1800X, the 1800X has 16 megabytes of L3 cache, which is considerably higher, although we don't know what the actual core performance is going to be. Obviously, the 1800X is also about $100 cheaper. I think it has technically has 8 PCIe lanes less, so this one has 28 PCIe lanes, but again, the platform cost is also likely going to be higher, trying to get an X299 motherboard, so the cost is going to be considerably higher, and we will need to see actual performance before we can properly judge it. I've left the table up for the 7800K if you want to take a look at it, but the two chips that are most interesting to me are actually the 7740 and the 7640. The latter one there is actually an i5. This is a very strange thing because these are basically Kaby Lake CPUs that are put on the X299 platform, and I really don't understand why. Perhaps this is to compete with Ryzen, the fact that you can get a 1700X or 1700 or even a 1500X kind of thing on this X370 platform. Perhaps that's why, but you've got an i5 on the high-end desktop platform, which again really doesn't make sense. It's a 4-core, 4-thread, non-hyper-threading at 4 gigahertz with 6 megabytes of cache. Also only 2 channels, so if you buy a motherboard with quad-channel RAM, that will not work, which is again a really strange thing. You will literally have slots disabled, so again it's just a very strange move. I really don't understand why, and I think the i5 is currently listed for about $242 with the i7, so basically a 7700K with I think it's meant to be a little bit overclocked, so a base clock of 4.3 rather than a 4.2 for the 7700K. with no listed boost clock. That one's retailing at $339. So again, I think a little bit higher than a 1700X kind of thing. So again, a very, very strange lineup, and I really don't quite understand it. Just as a quick mention as well, you also have some really high-end i9 chips that are being launched later on in the year. So the top end one is the 7980XE. That one is the Extreme Edition kind of one. That one is the 18-core 36-thread chip. They've not released pretty much any information about that except for the fact that it's going to be $2,000. There's also the 7960X, which is I think a 16-core 32-thread chip. You've got the 7940X, which is a 14-core 28-thread chip, and the 7920X, which is a 12-core 24-thread chip. So again, these are respectively $2,000, $1,700, $1,400, and $1,200 in that order, and I'll leave the table up for you. But yeah, it's a very interesting lineup. Obviously, we're not entirely sure why they've put the lower end, the low-end i7 and the sort of i5 on there, and also obviously the higher-end i9 chips meant to compete with Threadripper as that comes out. And it will be very interesting to see the actual performance. Intel claims, I think it's 10% improvement in multi-threaded applications from Broadwell E, and I think it's about 15% improvement from Broadwell E in terms of single-threaded performance. So it will be very interesting to see and obviously compare that to Ryzen and Threadripper when it's available, and obviously the higher end i9 chips when they're available too. So yeah, should be pretty interesting, and we'll, I guess, just have to wait and see. So if you've got any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. I can't promise that I can answer them, as I haven't actually spoken to Intel about any of this, so hopefully we'll be able to get in touch with them. I have been promised quite a few X299 motherboards for launch, but no chips for launch, so that could be very difficult to do. So feel free to pester Intel UK and all that sort of stuff on Twitter and Facebook, and hopefully they'll reply and give me one. But yeah, either way, I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful and informative. If you did, feel free to subscribe. As I said, if you've got any questions, let me know in the comments down below. Feel free to check out the rest of the Computex coverage. I'll leave it up on the screen for you, and of course the subscribe button too. If this is the first video you've watched from me, I'm not normally wearing an MSI t-shirt, as they're the people who brought me to Computex, so thank you MSI. And obviously just feel free to check out the rest of the channel for the more standard reviews and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, otherwise, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all in the next video.